Hi everyone, welcome back to AP Psychology with me, Miss Baines, your teacher, where you can take advantage of being able to pause and rewind me as I deliver you your latest content. So go ahead and grab those felt tip colored pens, get yourself in a nice comfy space in which to work, and of course, don't forget those ever important binder notes that go lockstep in order with everything that I say. Today, we are starting with video 1 in Unit 7 called Introduction to Motivation, which are on pages 1, 2, and 3 of your new binder notes. I'll see you on the other side. Hi everybody, welcome back. So as you can see from our learning targets today, and there are many, 2 pages of learning targets, it's all about motivation. Okay, so we're going to cover the introduction of motivation, the first part of our new unit, Unit 7, which is going to be called Motivation, Emotion, and Stress, and how each of these 3 terms intertwine to make us into who we are, right? Our personality, okay? So we'll kind of talk about each of these terms in their own right with various sets of notes. But in this set of notes, we're going to be covering the introduction to motivation, and what we will be doing is talking about the multiple theories as to why or how humans become motivated. So why or how are humans motivated? Let's take a look.
To fight! No! We will run! And we will live!
Shame on you.
This could be the greatest night of our lives. But you're gonna let it be the worst.
And I guarantee a week won't go by in your life you won't regret walking out, letting them get the best of you.
Well, I'm not going home.
We've got too far!
And I'm gonna stay right here and fight for this lost cause.
A day may come when the courage of men fails, but it is not this day.
The line must be drawn here. This far, no farther.
I'm not saying it's gonna be easy.
You're gonna work harder than you ever worked before.
But that's fine, we'll just get tougher with it.
If a person grits his teeth and shows real determination,
failure is not an option.
That's how winning is done.
Believe me when I say
We can break this army here.
And win just one for the Gipper.
But I say to you, what every warrior has known since the beginning of time.
You've got to get mad.
I mean plumb mad dog mean.
If you would be free men, then you must
Fight!
cut out their living guts.
1 inch at a time.
And they will know what we can do!
let no man forget how menacing we are. We are lions.
You're like a big bear, man.
This is your time. Seize the day.
Never surrender.
Victory or death.
That's the Chicago way.
Who's with me?
Clap! Clap! Don't let team die! Clap!
All right.
Let's fly!
And gentlemen in England, now abed, shall
No, my name is the Lord. When I
tell our enemies that they may take our lives, but they'll never take
our Independence Day.
Motivation includes the influences that account for the initiation, direction, intensity, and persistence of behavior, right? It's the why we do whatever it is that we do. So Aaron Ralston was motivated to cut off his own arm. He would go hiking in many parts of the world, and he would just go all by himself into these crazy jungles and these crazy mountains that nobody would think about going alone, right? Disconnected completely from other human beings. And one day he fell down and he got caught in between these 2 boulders, and he was left hanging there, and he couldn't move and he couldn't break free. After a series of days and trying anything he could to kind of squeeze out, finally he had to do something really drastic. He broke the bone of his arm and cut off the arm. and then he crawled up and climbed out of the valley between the two mountains. I don't know about you, but I could probably never do something like that, no matter what the motivation, right? But he was motivated to do this. Driving him towards the survival instinct is not good enough. So let's talk about where then our motivation comes from. There's 4 different factors to consider. The biological ones are very obvious: food, water, temperature regulation, sleep, and sex. Okay, so think of temperature regulation when you're really, really hot sometimes, right? There can be some anxiety surrounding being really, really hot and sweaty, and you just can't escape the heat, right? I'm too hot right now. You're motivated to somehow cool yourself off. Emotional factors, when you don't cool yourself off: panic, fear, anger, hatred, all of those things that motivate you towards different things. There are cognitive factors too, right? So perceptions of world beliefs, what they can or can't do, expectations about how others will respond to them. And then we have social factors, reactions from family and friends, teachers, social media, influencers. Implies that socially, we as a society look to them for information and motivation. There's a lot here written on for each and every one of these. Okay, so instincts and evolutionary theories. Okay, instinct. We've got to make sure that you know what instinct is, but also you need to understand what it isn't, right? It is the innate automatic disposition towards responding in a particular way when you are confronted with specific stimulus. You do not have to learn this as an animal, right? We are not taught how to do this. We're just born knowing how to do it, how to have our instincts. What makes this evolutionary is that because they're born doing it, it means that it's a genetic thing, right? There's some kind of genetic mutation, and it will continue in a species if it helps them to survive. Hence, they pass down a genetic mutation that is evolution at its best, right? An instinct gives a particular species an advantage in their environment evolutionarily. Right? Evolutionarily, that will be passed down throughout the species because it helps the species thrive. So birds, for example, might build nests. Salmon will spawn. All of these items, particularly for the first time, doing it, not because somebody taught them these behaviors, but they are ingrained in their genetic coding, because it allows them to survive. The problem with this theory, especially with humans, though, instinct is not as common with humans as it is with other species. We have instincts and we're born having them, right? And we do have an evolutionary advantage with our reflexes, like the rooting reflex, right? We just talked about it in developmental psych, right? The sucking reflex, the startle reflex, all these things help us as helpless newborns, very small little human beings trying to survive. However, we grow out of those. Humans do not have instinctual behavior like that, the way that a bird does when they nest, or that the salmon do when they spawn. Like, we don't have that. People could argue with you the maternal instinct is not actually instinctive. It is not ingrained in your genetic coding on how. It's just the idea that you love your child. But there are mothers out there who, unfortunately, and it's sad, but it's not an instinct, right? There are mothers out there who kill and hurt and don't want their children. Instinctual behaviors at birth get these instincts that dissipate over the first few months. Most psychologists, other than evolutionary psychologists, believe that human behaviors are directed by physiological and psychological forces, not instinctual ones. So the next theory that we're going to talk about is drive reduction theory. Drive reduction theory, it's just drives in general that encompass our conversation. The theory is that motivation arises from imbalances in homeostasis. Homeostasis is like your even keel, where everything is balanced and you're in a normal resting state. Everything is calmed down. When there's an imbalance in homeostasis and we are driven to reduce that imbalance, then we're talking about this drive reduction theory. Okay? There's an imbalance, say, in hunger, okay? The imbalance, it's not that just the hunger is imbalanced, it's that your stomach is empty and your blood sugar is low, and the imbalance creates a need. You have a biological need, right? You need the food for your brain to respond and to do what it does with food for nutrition and to stay alive. Okay, I really need to motivate this body right now. I'm occupying it by making it go get some food so that it will create the drive. The drive is the hunger, right? It's included in your stomach growling, your low blood sugar. But it's more than just a cognitive piece of information. It almost gives you some anxiety about what you're feeling when you're hungry because you have to reduce that anxiety, right? You want to eat, you want to satiate. It prompts the organism, in this case a human being, to take action, to satisfy or reduce. Hence the name, okay? The name of the drive. Reducing the drive is because there's a lot more involved in there than just, say, low blood sugar. There's the anxiety. There's that need to get it going, right? A feeling. Now, feeling, another example would be that you have no water for some time. Okay, so there's the chemical balance of your body fluids and your pH balance being distributed evenly, creating the biological need for water, as much like the example we did for food. So one consequence of this is a drive of thirst. It motivates you to find water. After you drink the water, you are quenched, right? You have met the drive to drink. It is reduced, and again, the same is true for food, which is satiation. Okay, let's talk about incentive theory that states that behavior is directed towards attaining desirable stimuli and avoiding unwanted stimuli, where our needs and drives push us into action incentives and pull us so that we think of drive reduction. And the imbalance on homeostasis is the drive that is created internally, right? So it pushes you, right? It pushes you from within. Where is an incentive? It's outside of you, a positive or a negative stimuli that pulls you towards it, right? It pulls us in one way or another to satisfy those drives, our needs. Once the value of an incentive is influenced by both biological and cognitive thinking factors, okay, so a yummy cookie, for example, if you do your chores right, that's going to pull you towards the cookie. Right? You're going to be thinking and dreaming about that cookie as you're doing your chores. What do you have to do as a little human being to go get that cookie? It's pulling at you. It's pulling you towards the action. Okay, the next one here is optimal arousal. I don't want you to think about arousal as being sexually aroused or sexual arousal. What I'm talking about is alertness. One end is like complete and utter boredom. Like, I am so bored, I'm going to start pulling my hair out of my head if I don't find something to do. And the other end would be having a complete and stimulation overload. Like, there's too much going on, I can't even think. Okay, I can't even do what I need to do. Okay, so human motivation aims to eliminate arousal, but to seek optimal levels of arousal, okay? So the level of arousal is unique to each individual. Generally, we try to increase arousal when it's too low and when we're bored, but then decrease the arousal when it's too high and we're stressed. Okay, when we're stressed out. Okay, we want to be somewhere in a happy middle. But your optimum, like your ideal level of arousal, is unique to you. So for instance, Aaron Ralston, back at the beginning of the slides, in his optimum level of arousal theory, is more towards the higher end. Not that he wants to be stressed out, but he needs more in order to be satisfied with what he is doing, right? That's why he does extreme sports and goes and dumps all his electronics and connections to all other human beings and goes by himself up on top of a mountain to go hiking where he can die. Okay? Some people are just satisfied, like, I don't know, binge watching some great show on Netflix, right? On your couch with your favorite person or your pet, right? You can cuddle up and that's like enough for you, right? Okay, York stops in law are similar but different than optimal arousal. This says that we're not, right? Okay, the last theory, optimal level of arousal, it says that we perform best when arousal is moderate, and that our performance is best when we are not too bored, not too stressed, and we've got to be somewhere between. Your level of arousal can be actually measured by an electrical activity in your brain, your heart rate, or even with muscle tension. Normally, arousal is lowest during sleep and highest during a panic or a great excitement. So that kind of gives you some idea what the continuum is of arousal. Some people, and we've kind of said this before, right? Those adrenaline junkies, they like those extremely high levels of arousal, while those of us, for the most part, who are a little bit more sedentary, can enjoy our Netflix and popcorn on the couch most nights. Right? That we have is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We're going to see this multiple times throughout our course, so you've got to make sure you know this guy. You have to understand Maslow. He is the guy who came up with this hierarchy of needs. You need to know all 5 levels here and what they are, and the biggest underlying concept that you have to understand is that we start at the bottom. You have to meet these lower ones down here, right? You have to meet the lower ones before achieving that as being complete and moving on to the next and so on, right? We have to meet the physiological needs of, you have to start at the bottom and meet those lower needs before moving up. So we have to meet, for example, our biological and physiological needs of air to breathe, food to eat, and water to drink. Shelter to keep us warm, sex to keep us procreating, and sleep in order to rejuvenate for the next day and keep us alive. Okay, after the biological and physiological needs are met, we move up to our safety needs. Okay, we need protection. We need to feel like we are secure. We need law and order. We need to know that there's a system in place and that we're contained and that we're going to be okay. After that, we need to make sure we feel like we belong. Okay, we have a sense of love and interaction and friendships and family. We're part of a work group. We get affection, we give affection. We are loved and we love. And then the next important thing, of course, is after feeling like you are and belong somewhere, is a need to have more in life. Right? Your self-esteem needs to be intact. You need to feel like you're contributing to society, that you're making a family or contributing to the betterment of your community or a bigger group outside of yourself. Achievement, status, going to college, opening up businesses, entrepreneurships, all of these things can be met in this level of what Maslow called the esteem needs. We are all striving for this top one here, and you should strive for it, right? We're all striving for this top level of self-actualization. And we have some steps to conquer along the way in order to become fully actualized. You don't have to be fulfilled 100% to move up to the next level. On average, Americans are at about 85% at level 1, 70% at level 2, and being loved, 40% level 3, right, at the belongingness, and level 4 is 10%, and by the time we get to level 5, the theory is a bit arbitrary, and the order is not like universally fixed, as there's always going to be exceptions, like the person who starves himself in order to prove, say, some political point. Right, something like that. Something that you do by sacrificing something about yourself in order to make a statement about the larger good. Okay, so they make things complicated, right? So someone who's living on the streets and is starving, they're not going to really think about the laws. They're not going to think about them as much, like, say, stealing being against the law when they don't have food, because it's reasonable to imagine that they would perhaps be pushed to have to steal in order to get food to survive, right? Because otherwise they don't eat, okay? So that's the idea here. It's not lined up in this kind of hard line way. It really does depend upon the practical aspects of a person's socioeconomic or even cultural truths, right? We have this order of these needs and they're not universally fixed, right? For example, in some other cultures, this idea of status is sometimes more important than the feeling of belonging and the security of, I don't know, having a family, okay? So these needs can be switched around accordingly. Finally, we have our cognitive dissonance theory. So the word dissonance means inconsistency or difference, okay? So when we have a dissonance, we have an inconsistency between our attitudes, our actions. We have anxiety, okay? That's the idea here. So let's think about this theory. I might believe that smoking and vaping is bad for me, right? Like I might know that or believe it. However, I might still go ahead and smoke, right? And that turmoil, that inner turmoil, that push and pull, it creates a sense of dissonance, okay? It's turmoil, anxiety, because I know that it's bad for me, but I might still do it just to relax, okay? So this internal push and pull, it's bad, but I still want to do it, creates anxiety. But we're motivated to reduce an anxiety by solving that dissonance, by making it or our attitudes fit with the actions. Okay, that's the idea here of cognitive dissonance. Okay, all right, that's all I've got for you today. Bye now.